Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm here to show you how to make the grade A ombre bracelet, which is a variation of the Radiant Gradient and the Lovely Ombre bracelet. I had to remember the name for a second. Basically, the Lovely Ombre bracelet, I thought it was a fishtail version of the Radiant Gradient, but it kind of wasn't exactly a perfect fishtail version of it, but this is basically a fishtail version of it. Anyways, let's get started. So, like both of those other bracelets, it has a V to go into the bracelet, and then there's a V to finish off the bracelet. So I'll be showing you how to make the starting V and how to complete the bulk of the bracelet, and then I'll come back to show you how to finish it as usual. So you'll need a double-ended hook for this and a helper band, and you'll start off by putting the bands on your hook for the central fishtail. So for this I'm using dark sparkly blue. You're going to start it off as you normally would, putting a cap band on your hook, but instead of pulling through two bands like you normally would for a fishtail, you just pull one through, and then you keep all four of those band halves on your hook. You gotta be careful with this because it's very prone to slip out like it just did, so I'd hold on to that really tight. Make sure everything stays in place. But anyways, now you're gonna add your first color closest to the fishtail, which I'm using a jelly slightly lighter blue for. And you're going to pull it through half the fishtail, well, first band of the fishtail and half the cap band. Put everything back on your hook, and then you're going to pull the half of the band that you just added over both the fishtail bands, but not the other half of the band, and then put the other half back on your hook. And it should look like this. It's important to make sure everything is still in the correct order. And then you're going to flip your hook around and do the exact same thing on the other side. Again, making sure everything stays in order. You do the exact same thing. Pull the band through. Pull the half that's in the center over the fishtail bands, but not the other half of the band. And then put the other half of the band back on. And there you go. And then you add on your next fishtail band. You fishtail it on normally, pulling it through all the fishtail colored bands and picking up the outer two. Excuse me. And then you pick up again the same color that you added before onto the fishtail. You pull it through the three bands closest to your hook, pick up the two fishtail bands that you pulled it through, pull the half that's in the center over, and then put both of these bands that you've added on back on your hook, including the one from the previous row. And again, you flip and repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Again, pulling your band through, picking up just the fishtail bands, pulling your middle band over, and then putting both of the bands you added on back on your hook. And now, after you do this, so you have two bands of the row you've added onto the fishtail. So that means that you can add on your next row. So to do this, you take the color of your next row, which is a slightly lighter blue for me, pull it through these two bands closest to your hook, put both of those bands back on your hook, and pull the half of the band that you added still on your hook over, and put the other half on your hook. Flip this around, kind of takes a while to slide over because it gets so band heavy later on. But anyways, you do the exact same thing over here. And then you can move on. So at this point you might want to start using your helper band because there's getting to be a lot of bands. So I'm just going to pull all the bands on my hook closest to my hook that aren't the fishtail bands onto it. Excuse me. Like that. And then you add on your next fishtail band. Fishtailing is normal. And then after this, you can put those fishtail bands from the second row closest to your main fishtail back on your hook. And then you move on. So you take another band from this second row. I'm gonna keep name the rows now. I'm gonna name this one the fishtail or main or first row. This is the second row. This is the third row. And then there's going to be a fourth row too. So, as usual, pull the second row band through, pick up your two fishtail bands, pull this band that you just added over, and then instead of picking up all three of these bands, you pick up the outer two. So that's the one from the previous row and the one you just added on. Like that. And then you put this band back on your hook. You can take off your helper band on this side now. And then you do something somewhat similar. You take this band from the third row, pull it through these three bands closest to the end of your hook, pick up the two bands from the second row, pull this third row band over, and then just like how you continued the other rows, you put both of these back on, since there are only two of them and not more. And then after you do this, you're going to add on your next row. So for this, I'm using a very light pale green. I'm just going to pull it over like I've been doing. And then you can flip this around. And you do the exact same thing on the other side pretty much. I'm gonna try not to use the helper band, see how it goes. Actually, nah, I'm gonna use it, I'm too scared. Actually, nah, I could do it. I'm so indecisive, I'm sorry. Anyways. So, since we already added the fishtail band on, we're gonna add on your first row band. Pinch off the first band. Pull this second row band through these four bands. Pick up your fishtail bands, pull it up and over, and then pick up the second band of the second row, and then put everything back. And then you pick up your band for the third row, pull it through everything at the end of your hook, pick up the second row bands, pull this band up and over, and then put both of these back because there are only two of them. And then to finish this off for now, you just pull your fourth row band over these last two bands. Pull this part over, like so. And I lied, there are going to be 5 rows actually. I can't count today apparently. And you're going to keep adding on bands as you usually would. So this time I am going to use the helper band. It's becoming very band dense. You can just use it whenever you feel like you need it. Just going to pull it on these last 3 right here. And now, of course, before doing anything, you fishtail on a band onto the first row or the middle row. You do this normally. Like that. And then, of course, add on your second row band like you normally would. And then you move on over to the next row. And of course, make sure they're in order. Right now they're not crossed over. Think of these as like kind of a half fishtail. So you're going to basically fishtail one side of them, if you get what I'm saying. Like, one half is being looped onto the previous row and the other half is a fishtail that is the base for the next row. So you pull this through all four of these, pull it through the previous row and the row you're adding it to. Pick up the previous row, pull this band up and over it, and then you fishtail it along its own row. So again, only pick up the outside band and then drop it off. And then put the last band on your hook. I'm gonna take off my helper band now. And then you add on your next row. Again, the light green. Pull it through everything at the end of your hook, the 3 bands we haven't worked with yet. Pull it up and over the previous row. And then you pick up both of them from the previous row because there are only 2 at the moment. And then you're going to add your final row using a clear with glitter band. And again, you're just going to loop it on over like you normally would. And then you can scoot on over to the other side, the exact same thing. I'm going to use the helper band again because I need help. And again, pretty much the exact same thing as you did on the other side. Okie dokie. And you move on to the next row. Again, making sure they're crossed. It's very important so the fishtail side of it looks good. They are crossed, so I can move on. This seems complicated at first, but basically you're just repeating the exact same steps along the sides, but with different rows. It gets easier when you get into the main part of the bracelet. Right now you're basically just casting on new rows. You can theoretically cast on as many as you want, or as few as you want. You don't have to do 5 rows, but that's the number I like. I think it looks really nice. I've seen people do the same thing with my other 2 bracelets that I explained in the beginning of the video. And then of course, since we added on this row and the last row, we'll pick up both of the bands instead of just one. Unclip your helper band, and then you can add on your last row if you want it to be your last row. And there you go. Then we have one more row to add, and then we can show you how to do the bulk of the center of the bracelet. So again, I'm going to use my helper band. I like to string it through everything except for the first and second rows. I feel like it's easiest that way. But of course, before you do anything, fishtail on your first row. I'm scared I'm not fishtailing it correctly, but I am. And then of course, fishtail your second row like you've been doing. And then you move on over to the third row. Again, very important that stuff is in order, the fishtails are crossed and everything. I'd check that for every single row, especially the ones that you just added on. They're more prone to uncrossing and stuff. And then pick up the outer band. Pick up your next row. Add your band. Pick up the outer band. And then the last row. Unclip your helper band. Loop it onto the previous row, and then pick up both of the bands since there are only two currently. And then you scoot it over and do the other side the exact same way. I don't think I really have to explain it anymore. You can just rewind if you're confused. Should have probably done it a while ago, honestly. Anyways. Today's my friend's birthday. I'm excited about that. It's about a few more months till my birthday. Can't believe it, I'm getting so much older. Like, the adults are right, when you get older, time does go faster, so enjoy your youth while you have it. And yeah, I haven't seen his cat since like forever ago, and his cat is the cutest cat ever. If you follow me on my spam, you'll see that I post pictures of her all the time. She is adorable. Her name is Olive, because she has olivey eyes. And I love her. She's like my child. I wish I could have a cat, but my dad doesn't like cats. My mom's still technically allergic to them, but the reason I'm kind of not is because I'm getting allergy shots. Thank goodness. I don't know what I would do if I like wasn't able to pet a cat. I'd be so sad. Alright, coming up to the end of this row. And again, you do the same thing that you've been doing for a while. Now you can move on to the bulk of the bracelet. Woohoo! It should look something like this when you're done. Got the nice V shape to it. And this is what it looks like when you get a bit farther, of course. Now you can move on to the bulk of the bracelet. I'm just going to show you this next row probably once because it takes a while to get through a row, I'm sure, as I'm sure you've seen for me working through this. Anyways, I use the helper band, I cast off everything that's not the first and second row. I just find it helps me. Anyways, then of course, before you do anything, you add your band to the first row. fishtail as normal. And then you can move on. So you're basically adding, like fishtailing, weaving on new bands to the inner rows the exact same way you have been doing. That's not the thing that's a little bit different. Basically what I'm doing is showing you how to fishtail it on the edges. And again, it's not really that difficult. So do not worry. But yeah, all this that I'm doing right now, it's the same sort of thing that I've been showing you when we did the V. But anyways, let me babble about cats some more. So I was looking up some treat recipes for cats because I kind of want to make his cat some treats. And yeah, I found some paleo cat treats, go figure. And they look pretty good. I mean, not like a human would eat it good, but they look like a cat might enjoy them. They mix sweet potato and tuna, so I don't think that's really a taste that us humans want to eat. Okay, and then here comes the last row, and this is where you do something a tiny bit different. Well, not really, but you pull it through, and you do the same thing that you've been doing with other bands. Again, picking up the outer band. And yeah, you just stop there. That's the only thing that's different. And yeah, instead of adding on another row, you just leave it like this, and it has a nice fish-tailed edge to it. And then you just flip this around, do the exact same thing on the other side, and then keep on going like I've been showing you in the V, except instead of adding on more bands, you just don't. But anyways, I will be back to show you how to do the closing V, and until then I'll do the rest off camera, which is basically just this middle portion right here. So I'll see you then. And I'm back. I've made this a bit longer. And you want to make it long enough to fit around your wrist, except you want to leave about the same length as the V that you started with at the end so it can fit around your wrist. So like make it fit around your wrist and then just imagine that there's another V about the length of this one that you started off with at the end. So anyways, to finish this off, you're basically going to fishtail the ends all the way up to a point at the top. And I haven't done this for a while, so I'm just gonna look at it and try and figure out how I did it. It doesn't look too hard. I should be fine. No need to worry about me. Anyways, so I've stopped at the last row where I use this edge color, and now you aren't gonna add any more of your fifth color. So you're gonna do the usual, pulling a bunch of bands onto your helper band to help you out when you work on your bracelet. And you're going to do the same exact process, except you're going to stop and not add the fifth row. So I'm just going to do the same exact thing that I've been showing you guys how to do in the whole tutorial up until then. So it's just fishtailing the center like you normally would. And then you add your next color. And then your next color. And then your third color, or fourth technically. And now you've gotten to the end here, and you just put this last row on your hook and unhook your helper band. And then what you're gonna do is you're just going to I'm trying to look at this and figure it out. So what you do is you take the second band here of this last row. You're going to cross it over one band, which is the first band, or the band closest to the hook of the previous row. You're just going to drop it off onto that band. Like that. And then you turn this around and you do the other row, other side I mean, the exact same way. So of course you're going to use your helper band, do all that normal stuff. I kept my robe on while I'm filming this, and now I'm getting kind of hot and I can't take it off because I'm in the middle of the video. Oh well, wasn't very smart of me, but I guess I gotta deal with it now. I do a lot of things that aren't smart. But hey, in your life, you gotta do some things that aren't smart in order to learn. But don't use that advice of mine as an excuse all the time. Alright, I just put the last row on my hook. Like that. And then I do the same thing that I did. So, all I'm doing is I'm taking this one, crossing it over one, and dropping it off. And there we go. Just double checking to make sure I did that right. Yeah, that looks about right. So now you put a bunch of bands on your helper band like usual, and then you work on your next row. Woohoo! And again, you start it the exact same way that you've been making your bracelet. It's just the ends that are a bit different. I'm getting really hot in this robe. Oh boy. I should have at least turned my fan on in the room. Oh well. And then I believe, yeah, you add on more greens still. I was looking at the bands I laid out and I'm like, you add another green row? Well, I guess you do. And then when you get to this last little band here, then you're gonna drop it onto your hook, unhook all your helper bands. And then you're going to cross this one on over. Again, crossing it over one band, and then you drop it off. Like that. And then you move on over to the other side and you do the same thing. This is kind of reminiscent of when you added on your bands, except you're dropping them off instead of adding them on. In the way that you add, like, I don't know if you'll get what I'm saying when I say this, but it's with like your, I don't know, adding on 2 at a time. Like you can see in the very beginning, they're added on in groups of 2, in pairs. That's why it takes 2 rows to get all of the 5th row all casted off. I don't know if I'm just babbling, but whatever. If any of you get what I'm saying there. Yeah, I didn't realize this might take me a while to do. Oh well. This might be a very long tutorial. I hope you guys are okay. I'm sorry. Can't really help it. Okay, here's the 4th row. And then put that last band on your hook. Unclip your helper band, and then just slip it over and drop it off. And then you move on to your next row. And basically, from what I can tell, you do this exact same thing going on along. You slip the 2nd band from the final row up and over in the next row. And then in the row after that, that's when you slip the one at the very end of the hook over. I'm gonna show you the rest, I guess. If it doesn't take too long, that is. It should be fine. Again, I probably don't need to repeat this, but you started off the exact same way that you've been doing it. I feel like I'm an over-explainer. I probably am. It's better to over-explain though than to under-explain for you guys to be totally confused. Better to be annoyed that I repeat myself so much than to be super confused and have no clue what I'm doing. Here's a question for y'all. How many of you speed through like a lot of my videos and like have the ability to like look at it and kind of figure out how to make it yourself? You know, I kind of do that sometimes, like like if a loomer posts like a bracelet that has a new technique in it that I want to pick up and maybe experiment with, then I'll just watch that part of the video and then I'll be like, okay, I'm good, and then I'll leave. That's just how I roll. Alright, and then again you drop these last bands on your hook, pull out your helper band, and then put this band, 2nd to final band on your hook, cross it over the band next to it, and then you drop it off. You should sort of be able to see like kind of a incline. It shouldn't be super drastic by now, but it's definitely not the straight edge that you've had for a while. Anyways, now I'm going to flip it on over and do the same. Just realized I have a giant hangnail. Whoops. But yeah, sadly I don't really find myself watching many of other people's tutorials. When you have to make your own, you don't really have the time. So that's why Instagram is so nice, because I just look at pictures and take notes off of that. I'm probably a little too obsessed with Instagram. I'm sure a lot of you find that, like me, you go into your explore page and then you end up looking through memes for like 30 minutes and then you're like, wait, what just happened? At least, I hope I'm not the only one who does that. Instagram is mostly just where people dump their memes before they die. Good old memes. Anyone else can't wait to explain what memes were to their kids? Or I'm sure memes will still be a thing when like any of us or any of my generation decides to like have a family. And it'll just be really funny to be like, hey kids, have you heard of Pepe? And they'll be like, what's a Pepe? Or they will know what Pepe is. Because it might have, or he might have like, ironically made a resurgence. I don't know, it's the future, I can't predict any of this. It'll just be funny to see what happens. It'll be funny to see what the future crazes are, like right now, of course, it's fidget spinners, and in the past when I was a lot younger, it was like silly bands and stuff. Yeah. I'm proud to say I don't own a single fidget spinner. I do have a fidget cube though, but only because my chemistry teacher gave them out. Which was very nice of him, but then I was like, well, I never really wanted one of these. I mean, I didn't say that to him, but I was like, well, okay, I guess it's nice. It's neat. I actually have it on my desk right now. I got the black and white one. Because I thought, oh, that's aesthetic, maybe I'll take a picture and have it in it. So yeah, maybe one day I'll get bored and take a picture, put it on Instagram, one of my bracelets with my black and white fidget cube. Did I say cube? Oh my goodness. I can't even speak English. Fidget cube. I'm laughing too much at that, I'm sorry. Anyways, I haven't been explaining much, but then this row, you cross the last band over and drop it off. Fidget cube. And I'm gonna flip on over to the other side. Speaking of saying words in a different way, you know how everyone has their like dialect based on where they grew up and stuff, or for some reason they just say one word and it sounds different than like how a bunch of other people say it? Well, my German teacher, she says water, that's how she pronounces it, and some of the people in her class thought it was really funny, so they made a remix of her saying water, and I laughed a little too hard on it. I felt kind of bad, honestly. I was like, I'm sorry, Frau, but it's just so funny. Okay, I got to the end here. Again, same thing, crossing it over, dropping it off. The usual. And it's getting a lot shorter, or thinner, I guess, by this point. If it's not, then you aren't doing something right. You know, probably want to rewind. But anyways, I'm just gonna keep on going. Shouldn't be too much longer now. I can't talk. Alright. I can't speak English. Are any of you out there taking AP classes? Because if you're curious about your AP grade, they release them on the 5th at the earliest. I'm like kind of bummed because my state gets them on the 7th, but certain states release them at later dates. The earliest get them on the 5th and like the latest get them like on the 9th or something. But yeah. So I've added on my dark blue or darkish blue. Now I'm on the end here again because this is the first row that you cast off this row. You pull the second band over and drop it off. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what AP classes you guys took, if you took any. I took AP World. Kind of scared because they changed the test and its format and everything. So I don't know if they're going to grade it more harshly or if they're going to curve the grades or anything. I don't know. My teacher told us that it was pretty likely that they'll grade the tests a bit more easy because it's a whole new type of test. And my teacher prepared my class pretty well for the new AP test. So I think I at least passed, which is getting a 3 out of 5. I at least passed. I'm hoping for a 4 though. Definitely not getting a 5 though, because I'm not a genius. If you ever get a 5 on like any AP test, you're probably some sort of genius of some sort. No AP class is that easy that it should be super easy for anyone to get that sort of grade. I hear psych is pretty easy, but I don't know how many people get 5s. Okay. Then you're gonna cast off the second band of your third row. This next little section. I don't want to call it a row. I don't want to confuse you guys. I hope I'm actually helping someone by still staying on camera. I'm just babbling about random stuff that comes to mind, trying not to leave any awkward spaces. But yeah. I'm curious, I haven't really looked at many of the other AP tests. Like, did they change all of the tests, like, style? I don't think so. I think it was just, like, history and stuff. Because I know AP US history had to deal with the same sort of changes. But yeah, I'm taking AP US history next year. And yeah, I hear it's a lot easier than AP World, and that AP World and AP Euro are like the hardest APs. Need someone to back that up for me. I feel like if I pass AP World, I can probably pass everything else, at least. So yeah. And I also just didn't enjoy the class anyways. I mean, my teacher was fun and everything, but goodness, I don't like history. And the subject matter was just difficult because it's world history. You have to like you have to know all these people, and a lot of them have really odd names because they're not names that you're used to. Like, oh my goodness. In this one chapter, I swear, like, it was classical China that we were learning about, and oh my goodness, all their names rhymed, and I'm just like, what? There was like, I don't even know. I feel like I've already forgotten so much of the material. Oh well. There was like Shang Yang and Wang Mang, and I'm not even kidding, those are their actual names, all in the same chapter, and I'm like, how do I learn all these people's names? Shang Yang, Wang Mang. Oh, goodness, so many names. And this one guy was named Yongle, and I don't know why, but my friends and I find that to be a rather funny name. And I remember there was a chemistry review game we were playing for our finals, and my team couldn't come up with a name, and my friend on my team, James, he thought the name Yongle was funny. He thought Yongle was a cool guy, I guess, you know, sailing around and stuff. And he was like, he came up with some name that had Yongle in it, and I was like, no, how about we call ourselves Yonglethon? So we called our team Yonglethon, and we went on to win, or tie for first, technically, because the first day the review game started was the day after our AP test, so our brains were just totally mush. Like, that test was so like strenuous that you basically can't mentally function for a little while after. Anyways, now I've gotten to the last row here. Now you're gonna stop adding on any new bands that aren't your fishtail bands, and you're just going to sorry, I'm just looking at the bracelet. Pull the second band over these two bands, so it's in the very middle of the fishtail, or the middle of the bracelet, and drop that off. And then you're going to flip and do the same thing on the other side. So again, second band on your hook, pull it to the middle of the fishtail. So that's over 2 bands, away from your hook, and drop it off. And then you're going to fishtail on another band onto your fishtail. Go figure. You do that normally, of course. And then you do the same with these last remaining bands. I'm not even going to flip them, I'm just going to drag them both to the middle. You can drop them both off on the same side if you want. Now we're almost at the very end, and to finish it off, you just add one last fishtail band and grab your clip and clip it. And then of course, go to the other end and clip the cap band on the other side. And there you go, there's your bracelet. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope my random babbling at the end wasn't too annoying, but anyways, I'll be back soon. Bye!